Syllabic consonants are those consonants which count to make a separate syllable, in the way that normally vowels do. If you want to know how many syllables, you count how many vowels. Well, yes, but in a word like southern, there are 2 syllables, and there only seems to be 1 vowel. And the explanation is that the bears the syllable, makes the syllable, is syllabic, is a syllabic consonant. Now, in words like southern, there is the occasional option of saying sudden. You sometimes hear people say sudden rather than sudden. It makes no difference to the meaning. It can make no difference to the meaning. And seem to be alternative ways of saying the same thing. Alternative realizations of the same underlying string of phonemes. So I would say that what's happening here is a process of syllabic consonant formation whereby a schwa, and an n coalesce to make syllabic perhaps a bit longer than an ordinary n, so that you can tell it's a separate syllable. So sudden gives you sudden. Likewise, garden gives you garden. Again, it's easy to explain, and I think you can explain differences between different accents by looking at this. London children increasingly seem to say pardon, where London adults, at least at my age, say pardon. The 2 are equivalents, very clearly. Even in words like monotonous, there is the option of saying monotonous. Now, monotonous still has 4 syllables, monotonous. But using this option, we've got syllabic in place of the that you might expect. If we have the phrase bread and we form cheese, bread and cheese, what usually happens? From this we get, so we get bread and cheese. Bread and cheese. Rather than bread and cheese, we get bread and cheese. Can you hear the syllabic again? Bread and cheese. So you can see that there's a very strong argument for recognizing a process that takes a plus a nasal, or 1 or 2 other possibilities, as we shall see, and converts them into a syllabic nasal. So this also seems to work with L, a word that could be said as medal, more usually said as medal, where in spite of the spelling that suggests medal, we usually go straight from the D to the L, lateral release, medal. Total, spelled total, but pronounced total. Notice also we do have other forms like totality, which argue that there's a strong a underlying in the second syllable. Totality, therefore it's perhaps total. A weakens to total. A plus L gives you syllabic L. So we've got a kind of derivation, a kind of theoretical underlying form, total. Weakening gives you total. Syllabic consonant formation gives you total. And that's how it's pronounced in most environments. Total. Think of any word in which we have the string plus oo. Think of any phrase in which we have the string oo. You will find there is an alternative pronunciation with syllabic L. So, for example, with your television, you can pick up certain channels by satellite. Alternatively, by satellite. I think I would usually say satellite. Satellite. When you go to the library, you look things up in a catalogue. commonly known as a catalog. It may be a personal choice which one you usually do. I know I use a syllabic L. If I tell someone you're not alone in your views, yes, I can say you're not alone. You're not alone. If I ask you how do they get along with one another, alternatively, how do they get along? Get along. And of course, you will be familiar with the fact that idle and idle are pronounced identically. One is connected with idolatry, and the other one with idleness. Okay, so schwa plus L gives you syllabic M. Schwa plus M gives you syllabic M. Lossen, lossen. This seems to be slightly less favoured than the then one. Rhythm can give you rhythm. Have some cake gives you have some cake. So we've got strong form some, weak form some, syllabic consonant form some. And even schwa plus R can give you syllabic So in a word like gathering, say gathering, gathering, gathering. Well, I hope you can hear that's what's happening. Now, of course, in American English, General American, this process is very much more widespread because they retain R at the end of the word. So in a word like father or mother, American father, mother, I would argue again that underlying is and they coalesce into this syllable Now, on the handout, I've shown you the way I decided to represent these in the Longman Pronunciation Dictionary. It seemed to me to be misleading to treat syllabic N as something entirely different from schwa N, because in every word where you can have one of them, you can also have the other one. So what I did was put the little schwa up in the air in the places where I think it's less likely to make a separate explicit segment. In cases where I think it's more likely that it will be present, then I put it in italics. This follows the general convention of a raised symbol for something that you could add, and an italic symbol for something you could remove.